So, Joe, I understand you've got a board meeting this evening. Have these been more frequent since the pandemic started? You've been more communication with them?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been in communication with our board, but I think now with the dreaded Zoom as we're on now, I think it's been more accessible, if you like, rather than coming across to Bath and spending 3 or 4 hours over there. Some of the bits of the board meeting I don't really need to be in, but I think we've got into a habit now of certainly talking from the football side of things, that I go in and I sort of present on the first, we say 10, 15 minutes, but it turns into an hour more often than not. So yeah, I like to share. Obviously, there's nothing hidden between us as a football staff and players and a board. So it's good to share where I'm at, where the group's at. We go through the individuals and any issues that may be arising. And the club have always been very supportive. And the last question is always, what do I need from them? So we've had a positive one. I said all the negativity and disappointment sort of gone from me now. I think the important thing now is to show an energy, a passion, and a drive to move forward and what we can do with our players.
Obviously, the main discussion tonight presumably would have been about the null and void decision, which actually, I know that the deadline for submitting votes was on the 28th of February. It did sound like the outcome was inevitable, but was it a bit of a surprise that it did actually suddenly land upon you last week? It came perhaps earlier than you would have expected.
No, I was expecting a lot earlier, Mark, to be honest. And I'm glad it came earlier than the given date. I think we were all after clarity one way or the other, which way it was going to be. Nothing worse than anything you do and having uncertainty. So I think now that it's, like I said, now it's out there, it means that we can move on. It means that let those other clubs that, this talk of mini leagues and splitting divisions and trying to gain promotion. I get it. If you've put and invested a lot of money into certain clubs and you're in a really strong position, I get why they'd want to finish it, but I'm not buying into this merging of leagues, trying to recreate competition mid-competition. Whether we're top or whether we're bottom, I would still have the same view. And as we're sat here now as Bath City manager, we've still got 81 points to play for instance, 27 games. And, we've seen, and also getting in a bit of form, but we've seen teams that are in the top two this stage of the season or before, with the amount of games to play, rather, if you look at how many games to play, drop out of that position and go below the playoffs. And we've seen teams mid-table end up in the top two or in the playoffs and going up. So I don't think that's a goer, but I do get why teams would want to, or chairman or money guys at clubs would want to try and do that. But for us, it's about now resetting the bar, thinking about recruitment. Already my spreadsheet's done on the amount of what sort of players we want, what profile of players we want, names, and trying to move forward in that regard. And then, of course, trying to renew contracts of players, which I can't at the moment because I don't know my budget, renew players that we want to renew and releasing players that we think haven't quite worked out for us.
Yeah, you sort of talked about recruitment there. You sort of hinted on it as well, so you don't really know when you've got the green light to look at players. We weren't sure whether it was going to be spring rather than summer signings, whether it was all going to be brought forward a lot earlier than normal, or you're just waiting for the budget, presumably.
Yeah, I think we can guesstimate. I think, again, with the news tonight out of the government that if everything goes well, we're going to see fans back in. That's important because I think, well, until we got fans in the grounds, we're not going to have competition anyway because you'll have the same old adage. You won't have any income stream. All right, we might have some businesses back in. That's important. So hopefully we'll have those businesses that we spoke about before coming back into the football club, which brings in a lot of revenue. But we can sort of guesstimate it. Me and Paul, we've already had some discussions and lengthy meetings around it. I can start to build a foundation to the squad, if you like, because we're going to need a squad of some sort. And then we'll be governed basically by if the fans can come back in, how much. We might have to look at non-contract situations, Mark. We don't generally do that. So we might have to look at some situations where we get them on a non-contract up until a certain point and say, look, this is where it is at the moment. We can't guarantee until we know. And hopefully trusting the players that they want to stay with us in that period as well. So the danger of that is they can walk out the door any minute. No, so it is up in the air, but all I'm going to do is plan as normal. We've got targets. I've had targets. I've still got targets from 2 years ago, which I know will come back to me at some point. I've spoke to you before about that. So some we've missed out on that went and played at higher level last season. Who's to say now that they're not going to come back to me? Now, some of those players are in a position at clubs where they may be looking at getting promoted up, which means that level might be too much for them. Some are contracts are coming to an end. that have gone up north and be looking to come back to the West Country. So it's important I keep my eyes and my ears to the ground. I've always stayed in touch with players and see if I can get them maybe some for the third time of asking.
You've also obviously explored the loan system a few times this year. Both Bristol clubs have appointed new managers today. Does that make any difference, do you think, in your recruitment on that side?
It'd be interesting. I don't know. I mean, I've not really come across Joey Barton before, but I know Andy Mangan really well, one of his staff members that's gone in with him. I played with Andy at Forest Green Rovers, so there's always a point of call. You always know someone who knows someone, or you know someone yourself. So Tommy Widgerton stayed. I've done a lot of dealings with Tommy there at Bristol Rovers. The important one for me is Bristol City, as we know. We've used them probably more readily than what we have Rovers. Not to say we're not going to use Rovers, but Bristol City, Brian Tinyon's always been in situ there as the loans manager, and I think he's now development director or something like that. He's got a new title, but that doesn't really change his job spec as such. So already I've been in touch with Brian. Already he's had conversations, leave some gaps open for the next ones in your squad. Already I've spoken to him about the ones that I think might have of interest, and thanked him again for allowing me to have the likes of Tommy Conway, James Taylor. It's important that I do that and keep that conversations going, because we need them. As I said to the board a minute ago, we're in a position where we have to do that. We have to use loan players and young players, because my budget won't. The reason I go and get your ones which are always generally the star striker, like your Donovan Wilsons, if you like, or able to renew with Tom Smith over recent seasons, is because we use the loan market well, and that's how I balance my budget out. And not to say a defender's not worth as much money, because a good centre back's just as good, or a good goalkeeper as a striker. So that's always a balancing act. And I think this year, more often than not, that pool to choose from will be a lot more. So it'll be a bit of a free for all, but you've got to do your due diligence and you have to take your time, and that's what we got now. We've got time.
You said you've got those players who, of course, do still train with you, perhaps once a week. And you said in an interview on Saturday on Radio Bath, you've got sort of plans for smaller training sessions. Are you still sort of in the process of organising those?
Yeah, no, we've had some great discussions as a staff. So, we're going to go back to, like I said, back to my academy days when we focused in on individual development of players. We don't get the time to do that generally, as you know, Tuesday, Thursday nights. So we're gonna profile each individual player. We're going to sit down and ask them what they think they need to improve on first and foremost, and then we'll sit down and come up with literally a spreadsheet or a slide around what they need to improve on, how we're going to do it, and then implement it in training. So whether that means on an odd night, one player might need to go and do more power work in the gym, upper body strength. Someone might need to come outside and do some SAQ or just some running with us, or some technical work. Then we'll do that as well. So it gives us a really good chance to do it. The groups will be split. So because we're not still out of lockdown and there still is social distancing, and because of players being furloughed as well, you can do this type of stuff because it's more about CPD. So it's more about individual development of someone, rather than doing it as a team, and it's not focusing on a team. So there's no team advantage, if you like. If you look at the furlough scheme in itself, there's no advantage to us doing it as a team event. There's no income stream coming into the club. So and we've got enough staff to do it. So the sports science, myself, Jim, medical team, and we'll really hone in on that individual and help them and improve them and try and get them to develop. That gives us a marginal gain come when they'll have their break. They'll still get a break. They'll get a break mid-May, and then we'll bring them back sort of mid-June, I should imagine. Play a bit more. We'll probably play more games this pre-season than what we did in previous years, because I think the players will need it.
How are the players been in the last few weeks? Obviously, they've been a month or so like football. They must just be desperate to be getting back out there, surely.
It's been really difficult, Mark. I'm not going to hide away from it. I mean, once we stopped again, it was almost like you could see they were just totally deflated this time. And the big challenge as a manager has always been motivating the group within COVID with no fans. It's not been enjoyable. It really hasn't. Football hasn't been enjoyable. I spoke to you guys, you and Dave and other members of staff, and we haven't really enjoyed it because there's not that interaction with fans. The game looks different. The game becomes a game of appealing, squealing, who shouts the loudest on the benches. Referees put under too much scrutiny, too much pressure. Feel sorry for referees, really do. They've got nothing to feed off. They feed off. I speak to a lot of referees. they feed off the fans as well. So when they need that extra bit, they feed off that energy that fans give them as well. They feed off fan reaction, believe it or not, which, you know, people may not think that, but they do. And for the players, it's exactly the same. So I feel really sorry for them. Even now coming into training, that's why I had to adapt it and change it. If I was doing the same and just bringing in a group session, I don't think I'd get anything from it. And by tweaking it and making it a bit about them, or about them anyway, just about them as an individual, you can, I think you get better response from them anyway. So no, listen, they're all really fed up. They're really disappointed, not going to hide away from that, but they have to now find an energy and find that motivation to try and improve themselves. Most players enjoy going to the gym. Most people now in modern day enjoy going to a gym. So I've just said it to them like that. This is how you can will help you now improve physically and technically in this next space of time if we can.
You touched upon there, I was going to ask about the match days itself, as well as every game this season. It is but the couple where we did manage to have a crowd in December. I mean, did you feel that you were acting differently than if there was a crowd than when there wasn't a crowd?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, we feed off it as well. So me and Jim have spoke about this before. We found we're taking our frustrations out on referees, out on your players sometimes, and it was eerie. It was ghostly. It was felt like pre-season games. Some of them, some did have a good energy and competitive. But like I said, when it got competitive, it wasn't competitive in a way that I enjoy games, because even the slightest touch at our level now, players were going over and squealing, and referees were having to give decisions off reactions off benches. And yeah, I can't wait till the game becomes the game again. And with fans back in the ground, that's the only thing it is. Football's all about that. And as you know, at Twerton Park, I spoke to Brian Tinian the other day, and he said, I think you've suffered more than most, because he's been at Twerton Park a lot. And he says, I think you feed off your crowd. And we've seen it before, haven't we? Going down the slope, 80th minute, us driving, constant pressure, and us going to win games or losing games, coming back and drawing games. So yeah, I think the sooner we get, well, it will be hopefully pre-season, we get a crowd in there. It means we can all get back to what we do best. And it's affected us in so many ways. It's easy for me to use it as excuses. We haven't got some bits right, bits of recruitment we've got wrong. Readily, I understand that, but we still had 81 points to play for, and I believe we'd soon be in a strong position. And once we gain that momentum again, and like I said, I'm just looking forward to being a real game of football again.
We did manage to get some good wins still last year. A couple, remember where it's flying, that was a really good performance. We ended, of course, on a good performance, the winner Hamilton Waterloo. So there's still some positives you can take from the season, although it's played in very, very different circumstances.
Yeah, and also in those team performances, Mark, they're good wins them against some of the top teams, obviously, as well. Going down to Dorking as well, we enjoy going down there now. That's great. But the thing, the individuals now, so we spoke about it off air actually, people like Jack Batten, who people forget, he'd been out such a long time with his anterior cruciate ligament injury. It's only now we're starting to see the best of him, because it takes a long time. Tom Smith had come back in and didn't, to his own admission, didn't hit the ground running, suddenly looked like to be back in his best form again. The signing of Alex Fletcher, I think we've all seen, is going to improve us dramatically. Good young player who wants to get himself back in the higher echelons of football. Really hungry, already seen off the field stuff he does, gym stuff we've done with him, wants to work hard, wants to improve, looking forward to training now. And Donovan Wilson, again, there's another one, you know, I signed him and no one knew of him really. I had a great relationship with him at Wolves, and come in and I looked at him, he's only played 9 games and he scored 6 goals. So what a return that is already. So no, there's been some real positive bits in it as well. It's not all been doom and gloom. The doom and gloom bit is our position in the league. But like I said, we'd only played 13 games and I felt as if it was taking us a bit longer to get that momentum going. Every time we did, we stopped. So now, as I said, I've come off the back of it learning. You've got to learn from bits. We will learn from it. We'll look at the profiles of players again, which we haven't quite got right, I don't think. The back four has been the biggest thing for me. We've not been able to put out a consistent back four. And when you look back longer than that, losing Joe Rains was key. who was doing ever so well for us until he got that really horrific injury, and he's only just starting now. He's going to get the all clear to start running. So to get a consistent back four out there, I think is key as well.
You said about the players, they're going to have a bit of time off like they would, I suppose, in a normal sort of close season around June time. What about you? Are you going to have time to switch off, get back on the golf course?
Yeah, no, I hope so, mate. I hope so, because it's gone extra busy for me, as you can imagine now. So even just to plan what I spoke about for training for individuals takes a lot of time. Also, I'm going to be busy, obviously, trying to renew contracts. That's not something that's done overnight, by the way. And also the other side of things, we have got clubs that are showing interest in some of our players. I don't mind saying on here now. So it's important that I deal with those situations in the right way for the player and for the football club. But it's a tricky time. It's a tricky time for us. And I know I'm going to be on the phone a lot over the next course of the next couple of weeks, both ways. But I will find some time when that golf course opens back up. I'll be out there. It's important I get some recovery and relax myself as well, and try and get some sort of break. And then maybe during that period where we knock them off for 5.5 weeks, I'll probably give myself a couple of weeks if I can, and then come back with some renewed energy for pre-season, which is going to be a busy pre-season. As I said, I've got plans there where, again, I want to do the camp, which has worked so well for us, which we weren't able to do this pre-season, and then get some really good games at Twerton Park. I think that's important because they bring in a bit of revenue, but also to get back home and get players used to playing at home again, and hopefully in our own dressing room, because we've missed that.
Yeah, when we do go back to Twerton Park, do you think it will be a case? Do you think the crowds will flock back quickly, or do you think it could take a little bit of time for everyone to suddenly readjust to going back to their previous habits of being on the terraces every other week?
Yeah, we've got mixed crowd, and we have got a lot of older supporters, and I guess confidence is a massive thing in that. So have they had the 2 vaccines? Are they confident in going out and feeling safe in doing it? Because none of us really knows how we're going to feel, do we, until we go into a bar or into a gym or into a crowded situation. It's going to be bizarre, isn't it? Absolutely bizarre. So yeah, listen, we're probably just gaining a bit of confidence as an individual. Let's hope so, because the messages all out there are that the crowds are really excited about coming back. We're excited to see them, and I think it'll give everyone that little bit of enjoyment in their life, that bit that they probably didn't realise how much it meant to them at the time, but now certainly people are really clear on how much football's meant to them, whether you're me as a manager, a player, or director, or whatever, or a supporter. It'd be great to see everyone back in there and start to talk and communicate and socialise again, and get that great atmosphere back at Twerton Park that we all miss so dearly.
I suppose you can't imagine that you're ever going to go through another 6 months or so than what we've had since. I mean, it amazed me actually when I looked and found out we played 19 games, because obviously it was so infrequent. Did it feel like it had been that many preparing for them all, and presumably you're just hoping for just normality next year? Yeah,
that's all we can wish for. It needs to be. I think structure is important in life, isn't it? In anyone's life, really. And we haven't had it. No one's had any structure, and everyone's just been taking it day to day. At least now, even though there is a 5-week gap in the government announcements, there is some structure to it, and we know where we're going to be, hopefully, if everything carries on the way it's going. So no, I don't envisage going back into another, touch wood, another moment like we've been in, another 6 months or another year like we've been in. So no, let's hope we get that normal, like I say, a normal week. We have our Tuesday, Thursday training, game on a Tuesday, if not, game on a Saturday, crowds in, and everyone enjoying football again.
That's great.